The night feels calm, almost too calm, until a single abandoned car on a lonely cliff road quietly asks a question no one wants to answer. Where did the driver go? And why did they leave in such a hurry? As fog crawls across the ground and cold wind brushes against metal, the mystery begins to breathe, pulling us into a case that grows darker with every step. The engine of the silver car still gives off a faint warmth, like a heartbeat fading away. The doors are locked, but the headlights stare into the empty road, refusing to blink. The early morning jogger who found the car paces nervously nearby, trying to decide if calling the police was the right move. Something feels wrong. Something feels unfinished. The lingering smell of burnt rubber mixes with the damp ocean air, telling a story that words haven't yet formed. The police tape goes up quickly, and the silence around the cliff feels heavier than before. A place usually filled with the sound of crashing waves now feels like it's holding its breath. Officers look around, whispering guesses. Maybe the driver wandered off. Maybe they had an accident. Maybe they needed help. But none of the simple answers fit the scene. The footprints leading away from the car are too hurried, too sharp. As if the person didn't run from danger but ran into it. An officer leans inside the car window and notices the interior. A half-finished coffee in the cup holder. A jacket tossed in the back. A phone missing from its mount. Everything looks normal at first glance, but that only makes the unease stronger. A sudden storm of questions hits them. Why leave the coffee behind? Why leave the car with the engine on? Why vanish without taking anything? Something doesn't add up, and the feeling of danger grows heavier. Like a shadow stretching across the ground, a soft glint near the front tire catches attention. A silver necklace resting half buried in dirt. The initials carved into the pendant are clear, as if the owner left it on purpose. The ground around it shows signs of a struggle that's now fading with the shifting mist. Whoever this necklace belongs to, they didn't leave it gently. It slipped, or it was torn away. The necklace becomes the first clue, and it instantly shifts the mood. What appeared to be an odd abandoned car now turns into a doorway into something deeper. The footprints curve toward the forest, disappearing into the dense line of trees that seem to watch silently. The forest is dark. Even though the sun has started rising, it feels like it wants to keep its secrets. Fresh tire marks stretch across the mud, not from the silver car, but from another vehicle that must have arrived or left not long ago. The white pattern suggests a larger car, maybe an SUV, one that could hide more than one person inside. It's clear that there were at least two parties here, and only one of them left traces willingly. As the morning light slowly brightens the sky, the cliffside reveals more clues. Small pieces of broken glass glimmer in the dirt near the passenger door. The car window isn't shattered, so these must have come from something else. Maybe a device, maybe a struggle, maybe a failed attempt to call for help. The idea that the missing driver tried to fight back settles into the minds of the officers, creating a sense of urgency that spreads quickly. One officer walks further down the slope and spots a piece of fabric caught on a low branch. It flutters weakly in the wind. The fabric is dark, soft, and clearly ripped from clothing. The tear edges show force, not accident. Someone was dragged or pushed or pulled. Whatever happened here wasn't peaceful. The officers share looks of concern. This is no longer a routine check. It's the beginning of a dangerous chase. The abandoned car, once just a strange sight on a quiet road, now becomes the center of a storm of mystery. Every detail points to a crime that happened fast, quiet, and with purpose. And the missing driver, whoever they are, didn't simply walk away. Someone wanted them gone. Someone planned this moment. And the truth waits in the shadows of the forest, ready to change everything. The forest stands like a wall of shadows, swallowing the trail the moment it enters the trees. The morning light barely touches the ground, making every shape look sharper and every sound feel louder. The officers step carefully, trying not to disturb the clues hidden beneath the layers of leaves and broken twigs. The trail left behind is thin but clear enough to follow. Footprints pressed deep into the dirt, spaced unevenly as if the person was stumbling, running, or being forced forward. Something chased them, or someone guided them where they didn't want to go. A few steps deeper into the woods, the air grows cooler. The silence changes, no longer empty but watchful. The trees seem to carry whispers, broken branches, shifting leaves, distant snaps of twigs. They aren't sounds of wildlife. They feel too rushed, too desperate, remnants of whatever happened before dawn. The officers spread out slightly, eyes scanning for anything dropped, torn, or left behind. The forest doesn't give answers easily, but it never hides everything. A crushed patch of grass catches attention, forming the shape of someone falling or being pushed to the ground. The soil underneath is disturbed, showing marks of knees and hands pressing into the earth. Something heavy must have pinned the person down. Beside the depression lies a faint smear of dirt mixed with something darker, almost invisible unless the light hits it right. It's not enough to confirm anything, but enough to tell them this wasn't a simple chase. This was a struggle with more force than fear alone. Not far from the crushed grass, a single glove rests half hidden under leaves. It's small, thin, and torn between the fingers. Warm enough to fend off the early morning chill, but clearly not dropped on purpose. The officers pick it up gently, studying the inside. Faint indentations from fingernails press into the fabric, signs of someone gripping tightly, maybe trying to fight back. Gloves don't tell stories by themselves, but this one feels like a cry for help that never got to leave the forest. The deeper they walk, the more the clues twist into a pattern that doesn't feel random. It feels staged, controlled, as if every step the missing person took was guided by someone else. The trail leads uphill where the trees thin out for a moment, revealing a small clearing. In the center of the clearing lies a circle of ash, cold now but recently burned. Someone made a fire here quick, dirty, and without care. They burned something, and whatever it was, they didn't want it found. Bits of melted plastic cling to the remains of the ash pile. A strap buckle sits nearby, blackened but still whole. It looks like part of a bag, maybe a small backpack or equipment case. The officers share the same thought at the same moment. Someone destroyed evidence. Whatever the missing driver had with them didn't survive the fire. It suggests planning, fear, or a rush to erase a connection too dangerous to leave behind. On the far edge of the clearing, half buried in mud, lies a footprint larger than the others, a heavy boot print, deeper and angled sharply to the side. This one doesn't match the earlier prints. This one belongs to someone who was steady, strong, and in control of the situation. The spacing between prints shows purposeful steps, not running or stumbling. Whoever wore those boots wasn't in danger, they were the danger. Beyond the clearing, the forest grows tighter again, branches knitting together like fingers meant to keep secrets from escaping. As the officers move forward, they notice a faint trail of torn bark, as if someone brushed harshly against the trees while being pulled along. The pattern suggests direction, pointing toward a slope that drops into a small, hidden valley. The path grows harder to track, but the forest has already shown enough to confirm what everyone feared. This wasn't an accident or a simple disappearance. This was a carefully planned abduction dot at the bottom of the slope, where the light barely touches the ground. Something unexpected catches their attention, a small metallic object sticking out from the dirt. When lifted, it reveals itself to be part of a broken keychain, engraved with a name to scratch to read clearly. It's the second personal item found, and it cements a chilling detail. The missing driver desperately tried to leave breadcrumbs behind. The forest holds its breath once more, as if waiting for the next person to understand the message hidden among the trees. The officers step back, realizing they've only uncovered the outer layer of a much deeper mystery. The real story lies ahead, somewhere in the darker parts of the woods, where the trail leads not to escape but to something carefully hidden. Something the missing driver never wanted to find. The valley feels different from the rest of the forest, almost like the world dips into a quieter, colder reality. The air carries a stillness that settles on the skin like frost. Every step the officers take seems to echo, even though the ground is softened with old leaves and layers of damp earth. This place hasn't been disturbed, often not by hikers, not by animals, not by anyone, which makes the presence of fresh traces even more unsettling. Something wrong passed through here recently, and the land hasn't had time to forget it yet. At the center of the valley, a long and narrow trail of flattened grass forms a path that doesn't follow any natural curve. It looks dragged, forced, carved by someone pulling something heavy. The officers kneel beside it, studying the direction. The drag marks lead further inward, toward a cluster of large boulders piled like forgotten ruins. Their surfaces are rough, chipped, and covered with a thin layer of moss. But close inspection reveals something else: fresh scrapes, as if someone brushed against them in a hurry, leaving streaks of dirt and fibers behind. Whoever was moved through here didn't go willingly. A faint metallic sound rings out, sharp but soft, like a small object falling and rolling. Everyone freezes. The valley is too silent for random noises. They follow the direction of the sound and discover a narrow gap between two massive rocks. Something lies inside the gap, half hidden in shadow. When reached, it turns out to be a small flashlight, dented and dead. The battery cover hangs loose, suggesting someone tried to turn it on in the dark but dropped it during a struggle. The scratches on the sides show nervous attempts to grip it tightly. The flashlight becomes another silent witness, telling a story of fear and urgency. Just beside the rocks, the ground reveals more signs to different sets of footprints overlapping. One set is the same heavy boots from earlier. The other set is lighter, more uneven, likely belonging to the missing driver. But here, unlike the first trail, the prints are deeper, angled backward, suggesting resistance. The missing person tried to pull away, digging their heels into the earth, leaving jagged impressions that speak louder than any words could. The fight here was stronger, more desperate. And yet it ended with the drag marks continuing forward, proving the struggle was lost. A few steps ahead, a torn piece of paper rests stuck to a thorny bush. It's damp, half ruined, but some of the ink remains readable. It appears to be part of a handwritten note, nothing complete, just a fragment of a sentence, half a word, but enough to show intention. Someone tried to leave a message, a warning, or a clue. The officers handle it carefully, realizing the missing driver was doing everything possible to leave signs behind. Each item feels more deliberate than the last, like a string of messages sent out in fear with the hope that anyone would follow them. The valley curves to the right, forming a narrow passage that looks naturally formed but feels too intentional. The walls of the passage are lined with jagged stones, creating an almost tunnel-like effect. It feels like stepping into a throat carved out of rock, tight, dark, and hushed. The officers pause at the entrance, sensing that this place holds something different, something more deliberate than the scattered clues behind them. This part of the trail feels like it belongs to a plan. Inside the passage, the ground becomes firmer, less disturbed, but the air shifts again. A faint smell lingers, something chemical, sharp, almost out of place in a forest. It's not gasoline, not smoke. Something else, something used with intention. The smell clings to the walls, making every instinct sharpen. This isn't a place of accidents. This is a place of preparation. Halfway through the passage, beneath a small overhang, lies another clue, a crushed earpiece, the kind used for hands-free calls. It's broken cleanly in the middle, wires sticking out like veins. Someone stepped on it deliberately. The missing driver must have tried calling, or listening, or sending something. And someone made sure that connection ended immediately. It's another sign that the person behind this didn't just want to take someone. They wanted to silence them. At the end of the narrow passage, the forest opens up again, but this time not into nature. Instead, the trees give way to a small man-made clearing. In the center stands a structure, old, weathered, almost forgotten. A wooden cabin with broken windows and a sagging roof, hidden away so well that it doesn't appear on any local maps. The door is slightly open, as if someone left in a hurry or wanted to lure someone inside. The cabin feels like the heart of the mystery, the place where the trail leads with purpose. The officers stand at the edge, realizing this is no ordinary part of the search. This is the turning point. The abandoned car, the forest struggle, the burned remains, the dragged path, all of it leads here. And inside that cabin, whether empty or occupied, lies the next chapter of the story the missing driver never wanted to be part of. The cabin stands silent, but not in a peaceful way. It carries the kind of silence that feels heavy, like it's hiding something behind every plank and shadow. The wood is darkened with age, cracked in places, and the windows are covered with grime thick enough to blur the inside from view. The slightly open door sways gently with the breeze, making a soft creaking sound that feels almost like breathing. No birds sing here. No insects buzz near the walls. It's as if the forest itself keeps a distance from this place, refusing to get any closer. As the officers move toward the cabin, the ground beneath their boots shifts from soft earth to firm, packed soil. The footprints around the entrance tell another story, multiple steps, overlapping and chaotic. Heavy boot prints mix with lighter footprints, but here, the lighter ones seem dragged toward the doorway. The marks are deeper near the threshold, almost like someone was pulled up the steps with force. A smear of dirt runs along the wooden frame, thin but noticeable. As if someone gripped the edge desperately before being pulled inside, the open door reveals only a thin slice of the interior. But even that slice is enough to raise the tension. A faint light flickers somewhere deeper in the cabin, not from electricity, but from a small lantern placed on a dusty table. The light doesn't glow warmly, it wavers with an uneasy rhythm, casting long, trembling shadows that curl across the floor. The air that slips from the doorway carries a faint but unmistakable scent, sweat, old wood, and something sharp like burnt metal. It's not a pleasant mix, and it hints that the cabin hasn't just been visited recently, it's been used. Stepping inside, the first thing that becomes clear is how deliberately the space has been arranged. The front room looks like a workshop of forgotten purpose. Tools hang crooked on the walls, some rusted, some surprisingly clean. Ropes coil on the ground beside a metal crate. A table sits pushed against a far wall, cluttered with papers, broken devices, and empty water bottles. It looks like someone stayed here long enough to make the place functional, but not long enough to care about cleaning it. Every object seems placed out of necessity, not habit. The second thing that becomes clear is the sound, or rather, the lack of it. The room is still, like everything inside is holding its breath. But from somewhere beyond the thin wall on the right, there's a faint rhythmic tapping, slow, and even not mechanical, not natural. It sounds like someone gently striking wood from the inside of a small space. It's so soft that it almost blends with the air. But once heard, it becomes impossible to ignore. The officers follow the sound, moving toward the narrow hallway that leads deeper into the cabin. The walls here are closer together, and the lantern light doesn't reach this far, making the space dim and uncertain. The tapping continues, a desperate little heartbeat pressed against wood. With each step, it grows clearer. Someone is trying to signal. Someone is trying to say, "I'm here." At the end of the hallway stands a door, newer than the rest of the cabin. The wood is lighter, unstained, and a metal latch holds it closed. A faint vibration travels through the door every time the tapping occurs. One of the officers crouches, examining the floor. Dust and dirt have been cleared away in a straight line beneath the door, as if someone inside has crawled close repeatedly. Not random, not accidental, purposeful. When the latch is lifted, the tapping stops instantly. Silence returns, thick and tense. The officers push the door open slowly, revealing a small storage room. But it's not used for supplies, not now. The walls are bare, the windows covered, and in the center of the room sits a solitary chair. On the floor beside it lies a set of ropes, cut cleanly through with something sharp. And in the corner, barely illuminated by the weak light from the hall, sits a figure curled tightly against the wall. The missing driver, clothes dusty, hair tangled, eyes wide. They flinch at the light but don't speak, only raise a trembling hand as if making sure the faces in front of them are real. For a moment, the world seems to exhale, because the person everyone has been searching for is finally found. But the relief doesn't last long. Behind the rescued figure lies something else, a portable metal lockbox, half open, filled with documents, digital drives, and torn pages. It's the kind of collection someone gathers not for personal use, but as evidence against someone else. The missing driver didn't come here by mistake. They came because they discovered something dangerous, and the person responsible dragged them into this valley to silence them, the cabin. The clues, the dragged path, all of it suddenly forms a picture of a plan meant to stay buried. And now that the truth has been found, the danger becomes sharper, closer. Because whoever brought the missing driver here might not be far away. The forest outside seems to tremble with the possibility that footsteps could return at any moment. The rescue is only the beginning. The real threat is still hidden among the trees.